Well, we need to welcome you back, and we're still with the big story for today. We're talking about Nigeria and the COP28 summit held in Dubai. And we're not just looking at just the criticism, but also the successes, especially at the sideline of that very summit. And what Nigeria stand to gain if most of these deals are pulled through. But as much as it is, it's also created a whole lot of uproar, especially as it concerns the huge number of delegates that went there, 1,411. And many Nigerians feel is amount to waste and not essential, that those huge numbers should be there. But anyway, so much we're looking at that, I still have both of my guests. I'm talking about no other person but in the studio with me, Comrade Efe Odomo, and also joining us via phone all the way from Abuja, Barrister Ejiro Itagene, which we'll try and see if we have that connection so we can have his thoughts as it concerns some of the majors, especially the successes and criticism on the sideline of that very summit. But what we'll do now is quickly take a message from our sponsors, and we're talking about Beneta Gas, located right here in Ughelli, Warri, and environs. And when we come back, more discussion on the big story for today.
Oh, yeah, follow the road, auto better quality. If you talk gas matter, oh, yeah, follow Beneta. Gas with the better quality. Beneta gas, where they full rich man to Beneta gas. Delivery brother na sharply. Beneta gas. For Beneta gas, tomago mango. Beneta gas. Different type of gas cylinder. Beneta gas. Gas we go last you well out. Beneta gas. For gas matter, Beneta now dogu. Beneta gas. Gas service in a them they run. Beneta gas. Beneta make you carry go.
For gas matter and home delivery, make a wire Beneta gas plant for 080-6745-7890 and 080-5904-7722. Beneta gas plant, the tequila of gas matters.
Well, you do know the big story is big enough to accommodate all your businesses. So just come over. Let's see how we can talk business, and you'll also be part of our proud sponsors. But anyway, let's return to the topic, and we're still having it as a major, and we're talking about the issue of Nigeria and the gains and criticism seem to have greeted our participation at the COP28 summit. Hello, can you hear me now, Barrister Ejiro?
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Well, we need to first apologize for that difficulties in having you connect in the initial stand. Well, anyway, we are happy we sorted all of that. But let's quickly return to the question. And we want to first start with the issue of the huge number of delegates that were part of that COP28 summit, and the criticism that seemed to have greeted it. And many would say there's every right for Nigerians to criticize, knowing that if you look at some of the highest countries with the highest carbon dioxide emission, Nigeria is not part of them. If you look, for example, like China that produces about 32.88%, they only took 1,004 delegates there. The United States, that amount to 12.8% of carbon emission, just took 159 persons. So many Nigerians are wondering why the huge number of delegates that followed President Tinubu to that very summit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kobadia.
Yes.
Brazil came with the second largest or the second highest numbers of delegates.
3,081.
After the United Arab Emirates as the host. Nigeria is a very big country. If I have money, I would have registered for the summit to have attended. A lot of persons attended on their own. I saw my friends from the usual Youth Council, Congress, Ogoni.
Yes.
It's the most people, a lot of persons.
Okay. Okay, but it seems you're having issues with the connection. Can you now hear me well? Because we're just having back and forth.
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay, I'll plead on behalf of our listeners that while we're really having connection issues with that, we need to discontinue that call because we can barely hear what he's saying. But I would really love to see if we bring him back and he also reacts to it. But anyway, let's quickly continue with it. And Comrade Odomo, let's leave the criticism that have greeted that huge number because you've already taken your stand on it and you feel it's more of a waste rather than essential. But let's still talk about other majors, especially as it concerns some of the things we had during that summit. And one is the federal government in Germany on Friday signed a presidential power initiative agreement designed to ultimately inject about 12,000 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. Would you say this would be one of the high points of that very summit? Because what I'm asking, this is coming nearly 2 weeks after President Tinubu, yes, I could still remember, met with Chancellor Swaz and discussed power and rail infrastructure on the sideline of the G20 Compact Summit in Africa in Berlin just 2 weeks back. So would you say this is a major source on the mining criticism I've greeted it? Is this one of the biggest sources, not just coming just at the sideline of the summit, but also coming in the last 2 years?
Mike, I 100% agree with you. It's a major success. It's a major breakthrough. It's a major opener for the economy. If these things are implemented to the letter, you and I will not be seated here complaining about epileptic power supply. No. We will not be sitting here talking about lack of jobs in the economy. Okay. We will not be sitting here talking about the closure and the tightening of the economy. Yeah. Because when you bring light to a community, you are not just bringing that light. All those people who walk around and within that sector, they will be gainfully employed. And when someone is gainfully employed, it's snowballed into affecting positively every other person that is within
the economy. Yeah.
So if that agreement will come into fruition and it is implemented wholeheartedly, I think that we should all stand up for, even if it is 1 minute, to give Mr. President a real round of applause because he has done noble in that area. This is a thing we've been craving for. Okay. It's not the issue of globing without having any result. Okay. For this few periods and for these few things Mr. President has done, I think I am not going to say he has done too well because until we start receiving it, but I'm already feeling the pulse that we are getting something positive at the end of the day.
Okay, well, anyway, hello, sir. We're really having issues with the connection today. It's really a difficult one, and because we're having to really get his own side of it. But anyway, as much as we wait to get all of that, let's come back to you. So let's look at it. You said if been implemented, fully implemented, yes, this would be one of the biggest news coming out from that very summit. Exactly. Not just on the sideline, but also not just for Nigeria, but for Africa. Knowing that 12,000 megawatts of electricity to our national grid that is just barely 4,000 will shoot up to 16,000, far better than Egypt that had just 14,000 megawatts of
electricity. I cannot tell you that, Mike. We cannot sleep on daily basis with light. We cannot go to our offices, go to our various artisan places of work with light.
But implementation is my problem. If we look at that very signing and the deal, we know it was about $2.3 billion that was needed for it, but with what the Minister of Power have said, he said about only $60 million have been released on account of it, and we just had 10 transformers and all of that. But implementation is what we're looking at. Now, over the decades, we spent trillions of naira in different ideas of bringing up the power sector, improving on it, but little has come to it. Now, what makes you feel this will be a different approach, looking at basically Siemens, and they will be the ones handling it? Nigerians are very crave for Siemens or General Electric from the United States, but it looks as if Siemens is taking the lead in dealing with this, especially coming from Germany. But let's look at implementation, because that's always been our problem.
Do you know the meaning of failure? Failure is the foundation upon which success is built.
Okay.
If we have failed previously,
yes,
on several occasions, and we have learned from the failure, it's going to give us success. We should not be negative.
What do you feel this administration will do differently? That's just my concern.
What they will do differently is,
especially as it comes to implementing this,
is discipline. If you have disciplined people in position of authorities, everything will change. It does not take everybody to change it, but just 2 or 3 persons, everybody will change. There was an administration in this country, I don't want to mention names. You don't urinate on the road, even when you are alone. The fear of somebody watching over you, or watching at your shoulder, and trying to put you to go like for doing that is there. You just need one disciplined person to change. And once that person gets into position, they should really run that.
Yeah, because why I asked Chancellor Olive Swatch said two major issues would be there to deal with. He's talking about two bottlenecks. He's talking about the financial signing of this deal, and not just only that, but also he talked greatly about the implementation. And he said those two administrative and financial bottlenecks needs to be dealt with before this is fully put into place. But that's why I asked. Do you see this administration having, I know the political will is there.
Yes.
Undermining this contract was started in 2018 under the former administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. But well, coming to see it happen now is more of a plus to this administration.
Of course.
My basic concern with the crop of persons around President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and with their know-how, do you feel we're in to gain from their experience? Do you feel they have the willpower to do this? Do you feel we will not again add this to our many failed deals that never came to fruition?
I would not say we are going to fail this time around. Let me be positive, and I think I should be futuristic over this matter.
But as much as you are futuristic, I want you to look at the persons that are saddled to implement this.
I agree with you.
On the part of Nigeria.
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
Mr. President has carefully selected these people. They are captains of industries tested with a well and a very sound technical know-how background.
Okay.
This program is going to not only be seen to work, it will work. Because
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Look at the caliber of people involved.
Okay.
They've been tested, they've been tried,
okay,
and they have come out clean. May not be 100% clean, nobody's 100% clean.
Okay.
But at least in their various endeavor, they have achieved. So we should give it to them. Now, Mr. President has said it on the day he inaugurated his Federal Executive Council.
Yeah.
If you cannot work,
leave
us alone. It's a clear statement. Nobody is telling you to continue in office when you cannot work. Okay. Resign on your own, or you'll be forced to resign. If they have that at the back of their mind, though Fela said it's no longer at the back of them, but the front of the mind, they will be able to do something positively. If the fund to drive it is not there, yes, there is a way you raise funds, not by going to international bodies every time.
Yeah.
There are three ways you bail yourself out of poverty. Either by your friends, by your foe, or by your family. And now we have friends. Excuse me.
Yeah. Especially Germany is a friend, and they are willing to help out. And no surprise, we saw President Bola Ahmed Tinubu trying to ensure this during the COP summit. But implementation would still be
let us see the data of implementation first.
Yes.
If you are always talking about implementation, or if we are always talking about implementation, we'll never get it right. Let us continue to try. Electricity was, how many times did the man try the issue of electricity? Is it
before he got it right.
Before he got it back. And they are saying you failed 99 times. He said no. I was learning the art of how to get it right 99 times.
Okay, well, anyways.
So if we are talking of implementation, leave these people, give them a task.
Okay. And should a timeline not come? Because why I asked a timeline, we do know the World Bank recently said the private sector in Nigeria loses about $29 billion annually because of unreliable power supply. So shouldn't a timeline be given? Because as it stands now, we've not gotten a clear timeline of when these will be implemented.
Definitely, Mr. President will come to that stage by stage. You cannot put your two shoes in a rack when climbing a palm tree. Okay. You do it step by step. We will get to that point. And when we get, everybody will see it. If it is going to work, we will know. If it's not going to work, we will know. But I think that, now let us come home to this Niger Delta area.
Okay.
Nobody knew the volume and the quantum of oil that was leaving this country until they appointed a private surveillance company. And we started seeing results about it. Though for some time it has gone down a bit again. We don't know what is happening. So also with this, if we say that implementation because of it, we are skeptical, we will never get out of it. Go into it. The strongest animal in the forest is not the lion, no. Do you know that? It's not the lion. But because lion can dare anything, if you see lion, anything he dares and it's a bit, or he knows that it's going to be defeated, you see them retreating. They will not stand and they'll be watching. So also like a tiger. A tiger, the slow movement of a tiger is not.
Okay, Commander Domo, I'd rather not make you take me to bed on Tales by Moonlight with the Animal Kingdom, but rather let's stick with more of the questions.
Yes.
And we're still looking at some of the majors. Let's leave that because you feel implementation will definitely come. But I want us rather to come to another major issue, more of a benefit from Nigeria and other African countries, and is the loss and damage fund, which is accruable to developing countries on account of the climate change. We know developed countries like the United States of America, we do know even Dubai even had to put $100 million. As of last count, we have about $400 million that will be given to Nigeria and other African countries on account of damages incurred by these countries on account of climate change coming from more of the developed nation. And the reason I asked this, because let's look at the benefit of this.
Yes.
The reason I asked this, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have never shied away from demanding for such money. I could still remember during his presidential campaign he held in Kaduna at the Arewa joint section. He said, in his words, he said, we need to open our eyes. We need to tell the West, if they don't guarantee money for us as concerns climate change, they will stop in not wanting to do anything about it. So he has never hid his desire in asking the developed countries for money to help developing countries deal with the issue of climate change. But my question, the Ogoni cleanup has been there for decades and nothing seems to have been done. Undermining funds have been released. Would this not go the other way?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because no matter how, there is this saying that one day the king that knows Joseph will sit on the throne after suffering for several years. Well, let us be positive that the king that knows the plight of Nigeria is now on the throne, irrespective of any other thing that surrounds it. We should be able to go along with Mr. President. Now we have so many organizations speaking up against ill governance.
Yes.
We have Serap and so many of them like that. The budget is also there, other ones that are coming up. If we have those who are checkmating the activities of the government, I think they will sit tight more than before. And again, too, the rule of law cannot be removed from all this process.
Of course.
If rule of law is up and doing, you know quite well that if you do this is what you get. If you do that, this is what you get. Therefore, everybody is cautious of what they are doing. The issue of a frivolous spending is no longer going to be there. Because if you tighten the economy, not too much, yes, not too much, people will sit up and do exactly
But do you feel it's right that developing countries should demand this money from them?
Definitely. Why do they call us developing countries? Somebody put us in this situation. The developed countries put the developing countries in this situation where we are. So they should be able to be responsible for whatever we are doing now. Mr. President, to have demanded for that is in a perfect frame of mind. Otherwise, we will continue in this epilepsy. There are so many European countries today that have no single resource. They depend on African countries to do it. So they should be able to come and pay back what they have done in those countries. Don't forget, when even the late MK was campaigning, he did make the statement that if he becomes president, he's going to ask for the right of the slave trade era that our forefathers suffered. But unfortunately, he didn't get there. So we are very, very right and correct, and even at the appropriate time, to demand for the compensation from the developed countries who made us underdeveloped for the errors they committed. I would not say they committed crime. For the errors they made, because that was the norm as at that time. So we cannot say it was a crime. Some people call it crime. Yes.
But if you look at it, we also do things that impact the climate negatively. Our huge revenue resource comes from fossil fuel that many are saying is a big contributor to global warming. Exactly. And Nigeria lives generally on that. So if we put or hinge the blame on developing nations, would that be fair on them? That they are now contributing money to deal with some of the global climate change impact affecting
if they have not
countries?
changed the direction of Africa, do you think we'll be where we are today?
Well, that's a discussion for another day, Comrade.
Fine. No. It's part of what the question you just asked me. We are part of the people that are contributing to it. Why should they compensate us? Is that not what you are saying?
Yes.
If we have been on our own and we've been able to channel our resources, our knowledge, our technical know-how in a position that will benefit Africa, do you think we'll also be in this condition where we are? They are also contributors to the situation of Africa. So they should also pay for what they have done to Africa. It's not a crime, it's not a force, it's not compulsory. But for mutual understanding and for global interest, because we no longer have a world. We have a village now. Everybody on this earth is in one village now. They should also contribute in helping Africa to grow and get what their desired destination is.
Okay, well, anyways, our destination now is to go on a break, though. And when we come back, we continue our discussion centered on the Nigeria and the COP28 summit. And we're not just looking at just the criticism that seemed to have greeted a huge number of delegates there, but we're also looking at some other major sources at the sideline of this very summit. Let's go on a break and come back.